If you enjoy this content, please take a moment to rate and review it. Your feedback will greatly impact our ability to reach more people. Thank you.
All right, how's it going, man?
It's good. Another week. Things are good here in Nashville. Beautiful weather. I went to a musical here. Outsiders was in town. One of our friends, I'm not going to dox him, but one of our friends is a co-producer. So it's fun.
Okay.
And it's
That's cool.
It's an Ensworth guy that he's a sophomore in college. Went to Ensworth, so he's pretty young. He's the star of it, which is cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I had no idea. That's very cool. Government's still shut down.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's been another interesting week. I think feels like it's hard to pick out a main story, but I think you have to choose the ceasefire and the return of the hostages on both sides, the hostages and the prisoners.
Yeah.
Between Israel and Palestine. I think you have to sort of call that out as the moment of the week, although there were so many news moments, right? I mean, to be fair, there were so many things that happened over the course of the last 7 days. It does feel like we are headed towards a prolonged government shutdown for the reason I think we discussed last week, right? Which is open enrollment hits in 2 weeks. It does seem that the Democrats have another 2 weeks in them to let these rates roll out. But there's more and more rumblings about the reality of how much more the rates are going to be. I guess even Marjorie Taylor Greene is talking about how much more the rates are going to be for her kids.
Yeah.
So it does.
Yeah, we have a story about it. We have a story about it later. Yeah, there's starting to be not exact details, but pretty good estimates of what it's going to be.
Yeah, the calculus that I got wrong the first time. But then last week I finally got clued into it. I think it's starting to play out. So yeah, we'll see where this all goes. But we've got a long show, and let's try to keep it shorter than we did last week. All right, man. So let's dig in. All right, so we'll start with the jobs numbers. So these are unofficial jobs numbers. Not that many people are trusting the jobs numbers right now. We've been covering it ever since the BLS had its revision of about 1 million folks, and now nobody really trusts any of the numbers. We're seeing data sets kind of drop out from government availability, but we do have some unofficial job numbers, and they're not looking great.
Yeah, and I think we all kind of feel, at least I feel it every day. It doesn't seem like it's a really healthy job creation environment. A bunch of private equity firms and banks who have large access to, large numbers of companies or people that are, money on deposit with banks are providing different views, but it's all lukewarm to somewhat bad.
Yeah, and in fact, I mean, it feels like we are in our third straight year of layoffs kind of being par for the course and continuing to be celebrated by Wall Street. I am curious at what point Wall Street is going to look at these layoffs and realize who's going to buy the stuff, right? But it feels like we are just all in on AI, data centers, new forms of energy. We're putting all pricing there. Seems like nation states are debasing their own currencies to print money to invest in this stuff. That is the economy of the future. It's I feel like if you're not in the capital allocation, market evaluation space, you may be questioning the reality of this, but I don't see how you can possibly question the reality of it from our seat. It's so blatantly obvious that capital is putting itself behind the elimination of human jobs and replacing it with artificial intelligence. And you could say the reasons are for productivity gains. We're going to empower people to do more with less. All these different things. But the net result in the short to midterm is a lot of lost jobs.
Yes, no question. I mean, we were kind of early on this, I think, but now, I mean, most of the country, I think, is aware that there's not a lot of hiring going on. I mean, there aren't big layoffs yet. We haven't seen significant layoffs, although there's a couple stories this week, but that's going to be the next thing that happens. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
Yep, agree. Strong bank earnings push the S&P 500 higher. These banks are the big banks, the six large banks. First of all, they have diverse business lines, so that's great. They kind of do well no matter how the market is doing, right? I mean, I think about how well they did when SVB tanked and we were in the middle of a bank crisis and they started just picking up assets for almost nothing. The Fed is obviously there to support them because they play a critical role in expanding the Fed's mandate out into the general public. And their trading capabilities, they're being pretty quiet about it, but they have to have some of the absolute best quants and the best AI technology helping them to trade right now. And so they are just crushing it quarter after quarter right now.
Yeah, and I think the deal activity is back. IPOs are coming back.
Yes, Goldman Sachs for sure, yes.
Right. Yeah, so, this is the K-shaped economy. The Wall Street banks, this isn't your bank down the street. Bank of America, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, they are killing it now. And they're the first to report. So then we'll have healthcare, the tech group will report sort of later in the cycle. But in general, so far the S&P 500 and even the Russell earnings are really good. So that's sort of the story. The earnings are strong, stock market's strong, but we're not creating many jobs.
Yep, agreed. China, talks about big stories this week. China and Trump and the tariff trade war was another really, really big story this week. It triggered all sorts of different reactions in the market, depending on what statement Donald Trump put out on Truth Social. But clearly, we're starting to see that China is very formidable. We've known for a long time that they've got the upper hand when it comes to manufacturing. They're starting to flex some of their muscle around rare earth. And I think also, quite frankly, while they've been very retrenched and very calm, and we're not talking about a true military war, but underneath the power of the dollar and the economy is the military. Their military is extremely powerful right now, right? And we're starting to hear rumblings about how we wouldn't do very well if there happened to be a conflict, and of course that plays a role in the ultimate negotiation and horse trading that goes on between these two superpowers. And so it's interesting. We're seeing Besant out there making really, really strong statements around the trustworthiness of China. Vic, what's your take on all these things?
I think this is the process that is a kind of preliminary actions before an actual, hot war, right? This is like a Cold War-ish. It's economic fights. It's a lot of, political arguing back and forth, kind of posturing. China is the rising power, and unfortunately, I wish this wasn't true, but America is the existing incumbent, maybe declining power. Maybe we will have a resurgence, but we won World War II. And I think World War II also started with economic fights at first before it sort of escalated. We won World War II because we could manufacture. Our economic base was much stronger than Germany and Japan. We just had more capabilities. And we're in the reverse position today.
Yeah. I think that's right. So, ultimately, I think a lot of these words are used because we are, look, I think Trump is coming off of a big geopolitical win, I should say, in terms of being able to claim credit for the ceasefire in the Middle East and the return of the hostages, of the final return of the hostages. I think that he is leveraging that momentum in that moment into a horse trading exhibition with President Xi. I'm not confident that this is the real precursor to the hot war. It feels like a couple of jabs being thrown by both, but neither one is really sort of ready for the real full conflict.
Well, yeah,
but,
I agree with that. I don't think
yeah,
we're imminently going to start that. It's
yeah,
actually, I sort of think that Trump's calculus, and I have no direct data, so this is just me
of
just
course,
sort of
yeah,
guessing. But I think his calculus was every year China is getting stronger with the
yes,
trade balance as it is now, and we have to bring manufacturing, back into existence in the U.S. We need to reinvigorate it, and the longer we wait, the weaker we get. So let's try
yeah.
to start now. And I agree with that. His style is not my style, but I think he's right that we need to start creating manufacturing capacity here.
Yeah, yeah, I think all of that is true. So this next story from the New York Times: China's rare earth restrictions aim to beat the U.S. at its own game. Last week we were talking about the soybeans and the farmers. That's wrapped up in this whole joust. But look, the rare earth restriction is serious. We've been covering for months now. China's got 90+% of the rare earth covered, right?
And we are not going to be able to, in any short amount of time, spin it up. It's too dirty and hard and difficult. We have those minerals, but it's not easy to get to them.
No, I mean, literally, the U.S. is in the position of seed stage startup compared to China as like the Fortune 1 incumbent. It's like that's the analogy. That's how far off we are, right? So it's not even close. The supply chain and sort of the engineering models by which we are creating all the electronics that drive our economy today are completely dependent on this China's rare earth position, and they control that part of the stack. And so I think the reality is, as long as that's true, we will constantly leverage the things we have, right? Relationships, buying power, a variety of different things. But this is a very, very strong, excuse the euphemism, but a very, very strong trump card that China has.
Yes. That's right.
So next story, New York Times: small company in Europe caught in the big trade war between the US and China. A company called Nexperia. It's a computer chip maker based in the Netherlands that was taken over by the Dutch government after pressure from officials in Washington. So this is another aspect of the geopolitical pressure that's happening. Is Europe's kind of in the middle and is getting pressured a lot, I think, by both sides, but it feels like more by the US to, be part of NATO and do the things that an ally would do, which is so interesting because we've been very America first. So this is, a little bit of bullying. We as a country right now are leveraging what we can.
Yeah, I think that's right. It also, to me, it was a surprising line that was crossed. I mean, the government took this company over, and the board of directors now has to go to the Netherlands to get things approved to take any corporate action. I haven't seen that before, and it makes me concerned about, you have to be in line with whatever government you're working in under now, which is a different world and not as good a world as it was before this story.
I mean, but truly, this is where we're headed. I think this is one of the best things about being knowledgeable about crypto. The fundamental story of crypto is Bitcoin. The fundamental story of Bitcoin is the bank bailout. And the fundamental problem with that is government interference in the free market and the debasement of the currency for purposes that do not serve the citizenry, right? Right. And I think the longer you stay attuned to what's happening in the crypto world, the more you know that this is where this is all headed, right? I mean, all this central bank stuff, all this money printing, all these wars, whether they be trade wars or hot wars, right? I mean, all these wars, I mean, it's all ultimately about control.
Yes. And the beautiful thing of crypto that people don't appreciate, because everyone's just like trading to make a bunch of money today. But I think the beautiful thing is that Bitcoin and most of crypto, the ability to defend yourself and stay anonymous or control your dollars or control your assets is far outweigh. I mean, you can do that much more easily than you can attack someone. And so it balances power. I mean, it doesn't matter how many guns you have, you can't get my Bitcoin keys in any ever. There's no way to get it unless you sort of hold it under my head and I tell you it. But you can't just sort of take it by force any other way.
Yes.
And corporate structures, as we are seeing now, are not that way.
No.
What I think will be interesting to watch is this company is small, but there are big technology companies that I think would be, maybe more powerful than nation states, except they don't have military. And so how that evolves over the next 10 years is just going to be interesting to watch. I think that the companies are going to evolve to where they are independent, but I don't know that for sure.
It is to some degree downstream of the rise of China, because everything we're talking about already occurs in China.
Yes.
Right? We remember Jack Ma disappeared.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like we can't wrap our head around the idea of Jeff Bezos disappearing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But in Russia or in China, this already is the way it works. And so it's not like it doesn't already happen like this in places in the world. And look, you can't say it's not capitalism in those places. It's just there's a spectrum of engagement by which the state asserts its control in the capitalist environment, right?
Yeah. And this was the first time that a Western country that I know of took that action, at least in many years.
Yeah, but again, it's downstream of the fact that the emerging winner does this by default.
Right. Yeah,
right?
It's in reaction to the China ascension.
Yes. And there are other things we can look at, right? I mean, because what we're really talking about is liberty, right? You start a company, it's your corporate entity, and you have ownership of it, right? That property rights, right? The corporation is your property. So for it to be seized without due process, like, what is the eminent domain that grants a nation state the authority to seize your property, right? Is really the question. And what we saw almost go down in Europe last week was the removal of the right to have private conversations. Mm. If it wasn't for Germany in the very last minute stopping that law that I think it emanated out of France and sort of swept across Europe, because the UK is also doing a lot of this kind of stuff too. The EU was about to, basically make Signal and Telegram illegal. And for listeners who don't know, these are two apps similar to WhatsApp, where you have end-to-end encryption and the conversations are only stored on your phone, on the client, right? And this new law that was about to come out was going to say they have the right to continually scan your device for all things. So to me, it's like, okay, we're talking about a big corporation and we're not used to them taking from the rich, but they were about to take the liberty and the privacy away from every EU citizen.
Yeah, and they always do it under the guise of national security and protecting you, whether that's true or not. And sometimes it might be true, sometimes it's not true. But either way, that's the avenue that's taken to take these steps.
Exactly. So, to me, it's, I don't want to use the authoritarian word, the removal of liberties in the West is an emerging trend. I don't think you can argue with that. To the Fed, Powell keeps the Fed on track to lower rates again.
Yeah, so that headline is expected, right? They're going to meet in a couple weeks. But what's in the story the reason I wanted to talk about is he also is ending
QT.
QT, yes. Exactly.
Yes.
That's
so Vic,
that's unexpected and more important. Yeah.
Vic, explain that to the listeners, please.
In the pandemic and other times, the Fed will buy assets in the market, which has the effect of pushing more spending power, pushing more cash as they buy a bond, both US bonds, and they did some corporate bonds too. Then money goes out and people then spend that. But then their balance sheet is quite a bit bigger. And so that they don't have to, but it is traditional that they would then try to reverse that and get back to where they started. So they have been going through a process of doing the opposite and selling these back into the market, which has of course, the opposite effect. It takes cash out of the market and constrains the economy. It's like raising rates, but just a different method to do that. And so he's going to continue to lower rates, it sounds like, but he also is saying that they're going to end quantitative tightening, which they've been doing at a pretty slow pace, but a consistent pace every month, $40-50 billion being sort of sold off their balance sheet, which is, again, kind of holding the economy back slightly.
Yeah, it's Vic, I have to give you your flowers on this. Week after week when we would do the show and Powell would sort of say, not lowering yet. You think about the story we started the show with, which is talking about the jobs numbers. You've been saying for a while, he's not paying attention to the jobs. And of course we did have the revision, and yes, we were off by a lot and all that, yes to all that. And he missed it.
Yeah.
He did miss it. He should have been out in front of it. Trump is right when he calls him too late, Powell. I gotta give you the credit for calling that out.
That's right. And I'll take the credit. I think it's also right to say the Fed is always backwards looking. It's pretty hard to be right in the future if you only look backwards.
The comprehensiveness of their analysis seemed to be wanting, right? If you're only looking at data and you're not looking at the progress of AI and what it is likely to do and how fast it's evolving and how much capital is rolling into it. And we've had more than a year's worth of time to see that, right? Like, to not have factored that in meaningfully shows their economic analysis is wanting, right? I mean, it's lacking the understanding of the force of nature that is technological progress and how it doesn't show up in data points and things like that. But when it hits, it's merciless. It's like a natural disaster, kind of, all at once.
Yeah, I mean, the Fed has a lot of smart people. They have more economic PhDs than anyone else. Several thousand, I think, work there. We should get better results. They don't do a good job. It's a multi-factor challenge, trying to figure out where the economy is going. It's a big challenge, but they could be doing a lot better on every front. I mean, just stupid stuff like their goal of inflation is 2%. That's stupid. Ludicrous. No one thinks that is real.
Yeah.
So they don't have credibility on that. And
I agree.
They keep saying it. I mean, it's ridiculous.
I agree. All right, moving into the VC rundown from GeekWire. Seattle startup Brook.ai raises $28 million to expand remote care platform.
Yeah, so this is like a new approach to remote patient monitoring. They're bringing a lot more AI capabilities to it. I'm paying attention to this space because I think it's going to be an important niche in the healthcare space. And then it was kind of interesting that it was led by a health system, UMass Memorial Health and Morningside. So that's a funny combination for an early stage company. Just interesting. I don't know if it's good or bad. I'm not necessarily sure one way or the other, but a Series B being led by strategics like that, and Morningside is usually even later.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
Yeah, well, a couple things. One, because of capital constriction and advanced maturity in companies, the rounds are getting more mature earlier, right? We've said seed is more like a Series A. It's not what a Series A was, but it's certainly not what a seed used to be, right? I mean, you have to be much more mature than 3-4 years ago to successfully raise a good sized seed round from a reputable firm. Then on top of that, I think the AI imperative that these health systems have, they have to
Yeah.
start going on the offense and getting out in front of this stuff. And I think it is smart to do that not just by being a customer, but by getting on the cap table of these companies, right? I mean, I think these health systems are going to have to take a play out of the managed care organizations playbook and start getting much more serious about building up their investment balance sheets.
Yes.
Really, and not just with like the S&P 500. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, and hopefully, I mean, if they staff up for it, they should be able to make wise investments. I mean, it's their market. They should be able to know. The other thing that I thought you were going to say you didn't is it was founded in 2015 to do a B 10 years in. Is just similar to the same track you're saying. These are later stage assets.
Yes, they are later stage. Okay, next story. OutcomesAI raises $10 million seed funding for AI nursing model. The funding will expedite the company's expansion into pharmaceutical partnerships, health systems, and virtual care programs. Is this a European company?
I don't think it's a European company, but I didn't look that up. I don't know. But it's funny how these things go in kind of cycles or in clumps. I mean, there's another nurse AI model coming out of Microsoft. I think it is. We'll get to the story in the AI rundown. But all of a sudden, people are turning to try to help nurses, which is great. We need to help nurses.
Yeah. And, but it's a model, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, when you have Google out here doing models and I don't know, it just I just get a little bit confused about the confidence that folks have in executing the model business.
Yeah.
Given the billions of dollars that these other companies are raising, and the fact that they're all gonna come for healthcare. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, right? They're all gonna come for healthcare. So if you're doing an application on top of a model, I would feel differently about it.
Yeah, I mean, my belief, but I don't know this company, is that the term model is not, they're not meaning a frontier model. It's like maybe it's a fine-tuned model, or it's like a new way to use AI in the business model of delivering nursing, not really like a full-on model that you don't need to build on something else.
I don't know that I care if it's frontier or tuned as opposed to trained. I think unless it is properly wrapped in a broader, more valuable application, I mean, with an interface and things like that, I just think.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You can be a tuned model, and you're basically going to war with the foundation, with the frontier models, right? I mean, they're not here to just be used. That's not how this works. So
yeah, no question. If you don't have some data or distribution advantage, you shouldn't be in the space, I don't think.
Yeah, and the only reason why I'm being critical is because this is a seed round.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's a $10 million seed round. I'm just like, I don't know about that. WellTheory raises $14 million to expand autoimmune care platforms. This is Series A, led by General Catalyst, participation from 7wire, Accel, very, very strong VCs around the table. Yes. Not that big of a round to be led by GC. They're focused on the autoimmune space, so we'll see. If it's led by GC, this makes me wonder whether or not it's going to be rolled into the HatCo and everything else they're doing, ccomURA and those other types of platforms that GC is investing in.
Yeah, but I don't know if there's some other strong VCs there. 7wire. They're not going to let them just sort of like do whatever they want. They'll definitely have to be arm's length, I would think.
Maybe. Or maybe some of these other firms are coming alongside GC for the ride, right? I mean, GC is much, much bigger than 7wire.
Yeah.
In terms of AUM. I'm not sure about Accel. Accel's a big firm, but
pretty big, yeah.
But GC is crazy at this point. Vega Health launches out of stealth to help health systems purchase and monitor AI.
Yeah, so this is interesting. Bessemer Ventures is creating this like a
Procurement thing.
marketplace procurement tool. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a model they know well, right? I mean, if you've been in health SaaS for decades, you know the procurement problem, right? And so it seems like a old business model design applied now to AI. Okay, got it, makes sense. This is a small round, by the way, $4 million seed round from Bessemer. That's very small for them. You know what I mean? I could write that size of check, so that's a small check from them. Moving from small checks to huge checks. ŌURA, as in the ŌURA ring that I'm wearing, snags a $900 million round to expand the smart ring globally. This funding was led by Fidelity. Good night. Good night.
I think it priced them at 11 billion, I believe.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the post money.
Yeah, post, right. They spoke at healthcare sessions here in Nashville 2 or 3 weeks ago, whenever that was. I listened to it. It was a great sort of keynote discussion. Well, it was an interview with one other person. They're moving into healthcare. I mean, they came to sessions. It's a consumer tech moving into health, direct health. They think they can, catch sort of the emergence of new degrees of disease, maybe through their wearable, which I think makes a lot of sense.
I'm fully bought in on that. 100% bought in on that. That's the timing. I don't know, but ultimately, yes. And they are in the lead position, right? I don't think there's any question about that too. They're the lead dog. Whoop is that probably right alongside them, but slightly different, form factor. But that's huge. And they just raised $200 million back in December, so not even a year later, picking up another $900 million. That's massive. Okay, moving into policy. California passes laws targeting PBMs and private equity. So seems like California is going to be in the news every single week now for these laws. We talked about this last week, and now we have the laws actually come to fruition. Is this the same set of laws we were talking about last week, Vic?
So last week, Newsom had signed one law sort of preventing private equity-owned assets from
I remember that.
Interfering with care, whatever that means.
Whatever that means, right.
And there's two more this week, different laws. One is not allowing PBMs to do spread pricing, which is the whole model. I don't know how you could do a PBM without spread pricing, which maybe is the point. And then they have this other law that he did sign. It was passed last week. It was unclear if he was going to sign it. He did sign it. That allows the state of California to review any time a private equity firm attempts to buy a healthcare asset. I think that's how it's worded.
Wow.
The state gets to review it. Doesn't really allow them to stop it, because I don't know that would fit with the FTC and the feds. But you have to go through this review process, which is going to maybe play with the other private equity law, where they can now prevent you from interfering.
Well, I don't think that makes private equity any more excited about doing deals in California. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I guess Gavin Newsom's sort of getting ready to run for president, but I don't understand. I don't know what this is trying to accomplish. I mean, the PBM thing, I understand. Everyone hates PBMs. Yes. I'm not sure anyone understands them, but
no.
That's going to create like kind of like they did with automobiles, a 2-tier system where a lot of PBMs are going to have to figure out something in California. It's a big enough market. The private equity thing is hard to even understand.
Yeah, it's crazy. Moving on to pharma, AstraZeneca strikes a drug pricing deal with the Trump administration. The deal follows Pfizer's administration last week. So just really quickly before you dig into the details of this, I just want to harken back to our conversation around the Dutch government, taking over that company. We've seen the Trump administration be incredibly involved in deals. And so while not necessarily taking over, whether we're talking about Intel or we're talking about TikTok, I mean, there's a lot of involvement, right? There's a lot of actual active involvement happening. Trump RX, maybe not necessarily, taking over something, but getting into an industry and competing directly with free market players. It's just a broader trend. It's just a broader trend.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I mean, again, there's not a lot of detail in the story. AstraZeneca said that they're going to provide up to 80% off the list price of drugs through the Trump RX site. And then they noted in their statement that in return, the US was going to delay any tariffs that might result.
Okay.
I'm not sure that was actually in the deal, but that's what they said in the story.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, what a world we find ourselves in right now, man. Modern healthcare, Medicare, telehealth, hospital at home payments on hold.
Yeah, so the ability for telehealth to be treated and reimbursed as, with parity with in-person health visits started in the pandemic. It's not a permanent law Congress has passed. It's a series of extensions. And that ended on October 1st or maybe September 30th. And so CMS is saying they don't have the authority to make payments until that is renewed or that pass a permanent law. And so as their procedure, they always hold the claims for 14 days. I think they're business days. So we haven't actually hit today is the 16th. So we're just now hitting where they're holding back the money. But we have portfolio companies that are doing telehealth visits, sending bills in with the expectation that they'll be paid like they were paid in September. I think that's reasonable, but they're not getting paid right now. And it's going to quickly, I guess it depends on the company, but not many health companies have the ability to last too long without getting reimbursed. And so this is one of many things that will sort of begin to be really painful in the government shutdown.
Yeah, I'm so tired of talking about telehealth, and more broadly, I really struggle. I feel like I'm showing my cards here a little bit, but I just really struggle with why, and I think it's actually reflected in the VC rundown every single week, right? When we look at these companies, you just outside of some specialty areas, we've seen a lot of women's health services businesses, and we've seen pediatric businesses getting funded. But outside of that, it's all tech, right?
Yeah.
It's all tech. And it's like, of course, why would you get into this business right now?
Yeah.
It's so unstable. It's so unstable. I think of California doing all their stuff. It's just like why would you, who's going to do this other than the incumbents? Who's going to invest capital to try to make the care models better for both the cost of Americans and for the experience of Americans? Who's going to do that?
I think we need clarity that the government will pay X for this procedure. With that, then businesses can decide if they think they can deliver that in a sustainable way or not. But just uncertainty is really a killer, where you just can't do anything.
Yeah, but also X has to be reasonably viable. The people, the people who get paid at CMS, they understand what's a viable rate and what's not. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, why even put a rate out there that's not going to actually work?
Yeah, parity would be great. I think it is true that there's lower costs to do a telehealth visit for the provider than an in-person visit, but it's not dramatically lower. You still have the same amount of time.
Sure.
So just some reasonable law. The problem is that Congress is not reasonable and they can't pass any laws. So
no. Both those things are true. Wall Street Journal, big changes are coming for 2026 Medicare plans. What you need to know. Skinnier benefits, higher premiums, and fewer options mean more than 1 million seniors should shop for new coverage during open enrollment.
This is, one of many articles that are going to come out in the next few weeks because it's going to be really bad. And I don't want to make it, sugarcoated. It's going to be really bad for seniors and they're not going to be happy. But the thing that I want to talk about with you that I think is new, because that's not that new. If you go down, there's going to be fewer Part D plans.
Yeah, it's not
And
viable.
What's that?
Emily's been telling us this for
Yes,
3
Emily's
quarters.
been telling us forever. And so you can see it here. In 2024, there were 709 plans across the country. And today there are 360. So, roughly half. And it's going down even more. And so that forces you have to go with Medicare Advantage, because the way it works, you get regular Medicare, fee-for-service Medicare, and then you have to add Part D to get your pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, except for the Part D plan's not there.
Yeah, or if you don't want to do that, then you go to Medicare Advantage, which packages it together.
Right.
In a lot of parts of the country, there really is no alternative except Medicare Advantage, and those plans are declining in their benefits and getting much harder. So
Yep.
that was the new thing in this article. I mean, Emily's been talking about it, but it was interesting to see them put it out there.
Yeah. No, listen. Credit to Emily for sussing this out. I think a year ago is when she started to kind of do the analysis on this.
Yes.
Okay, 31,000 Kaiser Permanente workers begin to strike in Northern California and Hawaii.
Yeah, they announced this last week. We talked about it.
Yeah.
And they went on strike, I think, today.
Yeah. Okay. So, it's a 5-day strike, largest in its history. That's a lot of workers. 31,000 is a lot of workers. I think they're targeting an organization that is margin rich, right? So this will get resolved, but it is worth at least highlighting that we continue to have, these big labor movements. And look, I think they're just going to grow, right? I mean, I think as you continue to have margin compression, you continue to have outsourcing, you continue to have AI being brought in, upskilling and reskilling demands on workforces, we're going to see more and more and more labor actions. I was listening to a podcast actually recently, the Patrick Bet-David podcast, and he was interviewing the guy, Sean O'Brien, who's boss of the Teamsters. And they're getting fired up. They're getting fired up. And they have a pretty big war chest. Their war chest is over $1 billion. So, I mean, they can actually hold the line and really force a lot of strikes. I'm not saying that Teamsters is the union that's behind these healthcare workers, but I'm just making the point that labor overall as a movement, I think, is really starting to galvanize. And it was a storyline for months. It was last year the dock workers sort of carried that whole storyline for months. I just think this is going to be a continual thing we're going to hear more and more and more about.
Yeah, I mean, it's the natural reaction to the K-shaped economy and all these Wall Street people making money and then jobs not being there. It's hard to blame people for trying to organize themselves and protect their livelihood. I mean, that's just going to happen.
Agreed. Okay, Wall Street Journal. To find workers, hospitals are training teenagers. Health systems are joining with local high schools to create employee pipelines. You can't sit and wait to see who shows up.
Yeah, so this is Ballard Health in Tennessee. We know the Ballard team. They are leading, working with high schools and training them for a career in medicine, MedTech, and then advancing up to nursing and nurse practitioner. You can keep going. I think it's good. I don't know that it's going to solve the labor shortage, but we need some good stories.
Well, and also, I mean, I think one of the most important things, I was just having a conversation with a nonprofit leader in the workforce development space, and she wanted to talk to me to learn more about healthcare. And, I was like, you're exactly right, because even with the issues we have in healthcare where we're going to offshore, we're going to do AI, you can look at the jobs. Healthcare is still going to be the leading employer, and the healthcare industry has a voracious appetite for labor. It just does. It's not AI'd yet, right? And even when it does have AI, it's not going to be in the clinical theater where that's going to start. It's going to be a lot of administrative back office stuff is where they're going to start with that. So there's all sorts of room. And look, these high schoolers, they're not dumb. They see what's happening in college. They see, they see the kids ahead of them going there, accumulating all this debt, graduating, and can't find a job. And so it's like, I don't know. Why not just go get trained in high school and avoid the debt.
Yes, no question. And it's a good career. We know it'll be one of the last places that AI takes over. I mean, robotics is a long way away from being at scale. I mean,
Yes.
there's great robots, but just the scale that you need to do, we're going to need people for a long time in healthcare.
And also the trust. Like, we're not,
Yeah.
it's gonna take a while before we get to trust robots running the clinical theater. It's just not going to happen quickly. Hims and hers to offer treatments for menopause and perimenopause. So they must see the trends, and they must see all the VC dollars going into this space.
Yeah. I mean, I think they probably listened to Health Further, because we talked about it more last week, the success with women's health, and then Hims came out this week with it, or hers, I guess, came out this week.
Yeah. Jefferson Health laying off roughly 650 employees amid significant financial headwinds. Jefferson's been working on right-sizing their P&L for a minute now, continuing to lay off. So this layoff represents 1% of their workforce, and again, is a couple of months after they posted a $200 million operating loss for their latest fiscal year. So still more work they have to do. Of course, academic medical center, they're getting hit on both sides, right? They get the healthcare cuts. They probably have not the greatest payer mix, and then their funding is also going down because Jefferson's a pretty reputable academic center. So just sort of a tough setup for them.
Yeah, and they're a provider. They have a plan. Big change that I noticed is that their plan lost a ton of money. In 24 they made $100 million in that division as far as gain, and this year they lost 170. And they're blaming it on GLP-1s and other medical expenses. That's certainly true. I think there's a lot of plans navigating that. It's a tough market. I mean, I think they've been working for a long time, as you say, and they got probably more work to do.
Credit to them. You see at the bottom of the article here, Fitch Ratings affirmed its A rating for Jefferson Health, but revised the broader rating outlook from stable to negative. So to me, that's a vote of confidence for management, but also an acknowledgement that this is not a great, that $200 million loss is not awesome.
Yeah, and part of the reason they have to lay off people is to keep their rating,
yes,
to be able to keep funding the business and
yes,
continue for the, they laid off 1% of the workforce. They have to continue for the other 99% and for the community they're serving there.
Yes. Okay. Novo Nordisk to acquire Akero Therapeutics for up to $5.2 billion. Akero is developing a drug to treat MASH, a liver disease correlated with obesity.
Yeah, that's right. So I don't know the details of how the compound works, but MASH is tough. I mean, it's bad. Yeah, it's a metabolic pathway. After obesity, you get all these things: diabetes, liver disease, and so if it can help that'd be great.
Yeah, and this is all part of Novo's attempt to sort of continue to turn around the brand. So
right.
Also, I think it's worth noting that's a pretty big acquisition, $5.2 billion.
Yeah. Right.
Not small. J&J is going to split up their orthopedics business. Its artificial hip and knee replacement division is going to become a standalone company within 18 to 24 months.
Yeah, so I was surprised about this. That they're saying it's not growing very quickly. It's not growing the same pace that the rest of J&J new things are. And so they think they can get more value for shareholders by spinning it out into another company, in theory, so that shareholders that want sort of safe but not much growth would go there, and people that want much more growth would stay with J&J. I guess it makes sense. It's a pretty big part of J&J that they're splitting off, but they must be confident in the rest of their pipeline.
I thought I thought you were going to go somewhere different, which is to say that Wall Street is very, very, very focused on these AI companies. And while Johnson & Johnson has performed well amongst healthcare companies, healthcare as an index versus the Mag 7 or Mag 6 now, whatever, has not performed well. And the whole conglomerate as a business model is no longer in vogue, right? And so you're not rewarded by Wall Street analysts anymore for having this like huge horizontal, coverage in your industry, you're rewarded for, what are your margins at the end of the day. And I think J&J is saying, hey, we don't need to have this huge sort of top line number. We need to optimize for our margins in order to get the best stock price. So that's kind of what I think is
margins and growth rate.
Yes, margins and growth rate. Yes, margins and growth rate. Yes. Kohler Health unveils smart toilet device to analyze hydration and gut health. It was just this summer at the HFMA annual event when one of the keynote speakers was going through a variety of different types of ways that we can improve healthcare. And one of the key points of the talk, which is pretty aligned with RFK and Maha, was that we needed more loveless technology, meaning we needed to enable people to track their vitals in a much more seamless way that was not onerous. So it was kind of talking about the difference between forcing someone to use the Omron blood pressure cuff, which no one had. There's like basically nil adherence to this, right? Every doctor, including mine, every doctor asks you to do it. No one does it. No one does it. You know what I mean? But it's like, guess what you do every day? You sit on your toilet. And if we can have an ŌURA ring that picks up all these things, if we can have an Apple Watch that picks up all these things, can we leverage the toilet seat as this place that your body interacts with every day as an opportunity to seamlessly collect key information, from you? I just think this is like no brainer.
Yeah. If they can do it, it turns the sale of a bathroom appliance into a monthly recurring revenue fee, and it's better health. So it's good all around.
Yep, agree. Okay, Health and Us, New York Times, the drug that took more than her appetite away. So the subject's name is Jessica Masserone, and this is a story about sort of the power of GLP-1 drugs to impact addiction broadly, not just food addiction. I just think these drugs are clearly very broad in the potential applications they could have, and people are, I think, probably rightfully looking at how they might be able to support addiction. I actually had a friend who, Vic, you and I have both sort of been in recovery, and we don't drink actively anymore.
Yeah.
But I have a friend who she stopped drinking, and then per her words, she fell off the wagon. Then she put herself in rehab for 30 days. And then she actually texted me because she knows, we both weren't drinking for a period of time. And she was telling me about this drug that they gave her at the rehab center. And she was like, it's amazing. I wish I wish I would have known about it before. And she wanted to just put it on my radar and make sure I knew about it, And I think we are, just as we're looking at stem cells and peptides and, BPC and all these different,
So they gave your friend a GLP-1 at the
it wasn't
recovery?
a GLP-1. It wasn't a GLP-1. I'll find the name here in a second. But the point is, more and more we're looking at exogenous methods to be able to support addiction, and not just meetings and willpower, and you know what I mean. And I'm all for that, man. Listen, there's many things that we can try to help people manage this addiction. One of the things I really like about it is it puts it more squarely in the category of a medical issue, as opposed to some character flaw or moral failing.
Right. Yeah. And it works. Methadone and Suboxone. We have other drugs for kind of the morphine-based opioids, but they're not. They all have side effects and challenges with them. And so I think GLP-1s, although they have side effects too, I think they're certainly manageable. And if it can help one person, we should talk about it. And that means it could help other people. Maybe it's not good for everyone. We need to do more studies. This nonprofit in Rhode Island gave it to 15 of their patients. But that's not enough. We need to be doing broader studies on this. So.
Agree. A historic crypto sell-off erased over 19 billion, but two accounts made 160 million. So this is the kind of stuff that definitely makes people say crypto is a casino, crypto is terrible. I thought it was actually people talk about it as one of the worst days, but if you actually understand what happened, I think it was one of the greatest days in the history of crypto, actually.
I think it's a sign that crypto is maturing.
So the main thing is Trump announces 100% tariffs on China, and basically that immediately precipitated this massive sell-off in crypto. Now, the sell-off was not a manual sell-off. It was an automated sell-off. It could not have happened that quickly if people were running to their Coinbase accounts to try to sell their Bitcoin. It was long and shorts, right? It was options trade. You know, people
Well,
take
and
long
I
shorts.
think the trader that made a bunch of money actually heard things out of China that Trump reacted to. So they put, I mean, maybe they had inside information, maybe they didn't. I mean, I think there's plenty of inside information.
Yeah.
If you just look at any M&A transaction, there's clearly leaks all over the place. But they also, they traded after China started talking about the rare earths and started being aggressive, that caused Trump to do what he did Friday. So, I mean, I think it's trading, right? You're day trading crypto. You shouldn't be day trading crypto unless you're willing to deal with this volatility. I don't think it makes sense to day trade crypto.
1,000%.
But that's nothing to do with the crypto market. I mean, every market has swings. And I think to me, it's healthy.
Yeah, no, listen, I mean, the 19 billion did not come from a hack, and it did not come from, people running to their Coinbase accounts. It came from the liquidation of Bitcoin longs, right? Once the Bitcoin price moved materially after a Trump announcement
as it should have. I mean,
of course. Yeah. And that was the game. Now, what I thought was so incredible was that these liquidations, for the most part, not all of them, because some of them were in different exchanges that are centralized, right, where there's custody and there may be some fractional reserve stuff going on. But in all the automated, what we call distributed exchanges, right, where the only real intermediary is lines of code, it's just software, these liquidations happened automatically within an hour in some cases with no flaw. Because guess what? All the assets were there. All the collateral was there. It wasn't fractionally being leveraged somewhere else. Basically, like, this is the kind of thing that would have brought many American banks to their knees. I shouldn't even say American banks. Many fractional banks around the world. Many fractional centralized banks around the world would have been brought to their knees by this type of run. And the crypto infrastructure just like processed it. And then within 24 hours, the Bitcoin price was right back where it was. And then subsequently hit an all-time high.
Yeah, that's right.
It's
That's exactly my belief. It's going to be, I mean, it's healthier to have non-fractional reserve. The money is the assets are there, and if you're trading a derivative product that is subject to being liquidated, you're getting some upside for that risk. And once in a while, it's going to happen.
Yes. So this was actually
that's what I want to talk about, because I think it's presented as like a gotcha bad story, but I actually think it's the opposite of that.
It's a great story, and you kind of I've been dealing with a lot of like on the ground stuff here, but you pointed out that the big token conference in Singapore, and of course the adjunct to it, which is Biology's Network State conference, happened. I was watching the Vitalik Buterin, who's the founder of Ethereum. I was watching his interview with Biology, and he was talking about hacks in DeFi have gone. They're like it's almost like non-statistical now at this point. Like there's so few hacks because everyone's sort of learned. Everyone's got the best practices. The audits are much better of the code. Like everything is much tighter. So we're kind of getting out of the wild west world of crypto. I think
I heard that interview. I heard that interview as well, and I agree. That was I hadn't paid attention to it, but the volume of money going through the DeFi rails, Ethereum, Solana, Bitcoin, big ones, Ripple, is much higher than it was in 2016, 2017, 2018. And all the code, smart contracts being the most prominent one, is much more hardened. I mean, every time there's a hack or someone does code wrong and they get taken advantage of, then people fix that. And so now over time, it's just gotten much more robust, which is what happens with these software platforms.
Yeah, no, it's remarkable. And the idea that it's been open for all this time and the long-term technological risk is really more quantum than anything. It's more at the fundamental layer of cryptography as opposed to a particular line of code. But it proves a lot about the value of open source and about the value of transparency. Like, when there is sunshine, the quality goes up.
Yes, right.
When there's shared interest and everyone is working on it together, but there's sunshine and everyone can see it and everyone can chip in, the quality of the security, the quality of the performance, the quality of the resiliency, it goes up. It goes up.
Yes, sunshine, transparency, and then I think aligned interest. Like if you create a smart contract that can't be hacked, you make money.
Yes. Yes, you make a lot of money.
People are encouraged to go figure out a new, better way to do it.
Yes, agreed. All right, AI rundown, then we're out of here. Google Cloud unveils health AI agent partnerships. So the technology giant is working with Hackensack Meridian Health on multiple agents, including a tool that can summarize patients' medical records for providers.
It's hard to tell the quality of it. It's more just a story of they're doing this. But I think it's great that Google is partnering with Hackensack Meridian's a good system. They're pretty innovative. And so it'll be good to see the collaboration. It weren't a lot of facts as to how it's going, but good to see them working together.
Yeah, and Vic, this story is exactly why I'm so bearish on rolling out a model or an agent. Because I'm like, Google and OpenAI and Claude and Grok, they're all going to directly engage the healthcare industry with enterprise sales to do collaborative things. It's like you're not gonna be able to touch either the capital base or the brand equity of these organizations. So to me, it's as much of a no-fly zone as Epic is as a healthcare VC for me.
Yeah, I mean, sometime later we should have a discussion about that, because I think if you can get data or distribution, you can have a business there. But we should talk about that when we have more time.
I think it's market dependent. I just don't think you can sell it into health systems. This is just my view about health systems. You know what I mean? You got to be going for something more specific, more post-acute, something like that. But health systems, I don't believe in it. All right, Microsoft to roll out generative AI tools for nurses. Goodness gracious. I mean, look, this is literally what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And that startup that got funded, this week to help nurses. Am I going to pick Microsoft or some company I can't remember the name of that we talked about 30 minutes ago?
This is what I mean. I can't imagine writing the $10 million check and this story rolls out the same week.
Right.
Like, goodness gracious, feels like LP malpractice, right? Okay. OpenAI, Broadcom forge multi-billion-dollar chip development deal. All in on chips, everybody, all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. I mean, Sam Altman I think he has committed to roughly $1 trillion of CapEx. He's now talking about being the first company ever to raise $1 trillion, which is ridiculous. But yes, Broadcom is partnering with them, and of course they got a bump in their share price, even though who knows if OpenAI is going to have any money to buy these things.
Yeah, but it's like, I think the thing is, you would only push for that if you thought this was a civilizational step change.
Yeah.
If it was literally going to rewrite the way everything works. That's the only way you can justify raising $1 trillion. $1 trillion.
I think that's what Sam. I mean, there's several people, including Sam, that I think believe that.
Yes, I think Elon believes it.
Yeah, I think several people at Anthropic. We have an Anthropic story. I mean, Anthropic believes it.
Yeah. Sam Altman says ChatGPT will soon sext with verified adults. This is sort of an extension of the whole development of character AI and all of these like different LLMs with personality, with narratives, kind of like you think about like a choose your own adventure, mapping to an LLM. And some of them obviously are PG, some of them are PG-13, some of them are R-rated, and then some of them are X-rated. Sam is now saying if you verify that you can now sext with an AI, And to me, it's like you've got to be out of your mind to do that with ChatGPT.
I don't know why. I mean, this seems like an unforced error. Like, why does OpenAI need to do this? They are the leader. I mean, so Elon came out with his companions and he was trying to catch up. And so, fine. I don't get this at all. I mean, it is, we were talking about this last week. Google is like the enterprise safe. Maybe Microsoft is enterprise safe. OpenAI has been trying hard to pretend like they're an enterprise grade company. And then they come out with something like this that I just don't get.
Here's the thing. He pretends that he's Apple, but he's Meta.
Right. Yes.
He's not Apple, he's Meta. That's why. Just seems pretty consistent to me.
Yeah. I mean, of course, people are going to do it because they're dumb, but it's not going to be good for the OpenAI brand. It's not going to be good in the long run to raise $1 trillion, I don't think. No. There's plenty of erotica out on the internet. I mean, it's not hard to find erotica. I don't think we need it, but I don't know.
Well, to me, the big thing is simply, I don't find Vic, I do everything I can to avoid using ChatGPT.
I know. I'm the same way. I have an account because I want to be able to test things when they come out, but I don't use it, and I don't find that I miss anything.
No, you don't miss it because all the other ones are just as good. Right. They're just as good. So I feel like this is maybe a good time to do a PSA, because I actually had a friend of mine ask me a derivative of this question, and I shared it with him, and I think, well, why wouldn't I share this more broadly? Here is, and actually, Vic, I'd love to hear your version of this, but let me just share like my AI lineup, like what I use and why. So I use Perplexity for research. I've not Perplexity Pro, and I should say everything I'm about to say I pay for. So I pay like, let's just call it $20 a month on average. So I pay for Perplexity Pro because of its sourcing. And it's just first of all, it's an application. It's not a foundational model. It leverages the best foundational models, and it's really sort of designed for research. It's great for research. I think it's better than the other ones, in my view. Like what it spits out is better. So that's what I use for research. I use Claude for document review and document analysis, as well as collaborative writing. But like it sort of loses the tokens get a little wonky after too many iterations. But I just find Claude, because of the projects that you can set up, which are very similar to, I think, projects you can set up in ChatGPT, which is why I like it. It's great for analyzing documents. I just had it analyze a contract that was in Spanish, and it helped me fully negotiate it with no problem. So that's why I use Claude. My general purpose AI is Gemini. Because I can use Gemini Enterprise, and as much as I trust Google Drive to store my documents and Gmail to store my email, because I'm paying and it's an enterprise product, Gemini is where I do my general purpose stuff, right? I use Grok for current events and fact checking of current events, like did this actually happen, right? And then I use Venice for anything that I think is super sensitive. And that's that for people who you've probably not heard of Venice, but Venice was created by a guy named Eric Voorhees. He's a crypto pioneer, and it's a totally private. It's like, if you know what Signal is in messaging, Venice is basically Signal for AI. And so I use Venice anytime I'm like, this is a little this is so sensitive. I'm not even comfortable with putting it into my Gemini thing. I like the peace of mind of having a purely private, maybe lower quality AI thing that I can use just to feel like, okay, I'm happy about this not being in a server somewhere. So that's my stack that I use.
Yeah, I mean, I'm similar. I have 5 tools. I use Gemini as well for pretty much general purpose, but I find it good for writing. And I've got several prompts with a lot of context, maybe 30 pages of context that I'll feed in if I want to help, like doing the email newsletter for this podcast. Gemini does that in partnership with me. I'm going back and forth with it. I use Claude for the projects, but also for coding. I have set up a bunch of MCPs, which modified protocol that allows Claude to work with me, build, writing files, moving things around, interfacing with the internet, calling APIs, going to GitHub and pulling down a repo. So Claude is my sort of vibe coding tool. It is not very successful right now, but I've done a lot of hours with Claude. I use Grok for the current events, same as you. I think any kind of research or information that is, within the last 90 days, I don't think the frontier models really are good at, except for Grok. Gemini would claim they're good at it. They search through the Google search profile, and they're better than Claude and ChatGPT. And then I use a Chinese agent called Manus, which I think is great, but it's owned in China, and it's a server-based thing. So whatever information you give it is fully out there, and the Chinese government, if they care what I'm doing.
Total non-starter for me, but I know it's powerful, and it can like run full tasks automated, and that's really great.
Yeah, but like I'm doing a new investment. I wanted to do a competitive landscape on a particular niche of healthcare, and you can give it this assignment like you would to a junior employee. Give it an assignment, and then go to lunch, and it comes back, and it's well done. And then I'm a lifetime member of Venice because I own some of their tokens, and so they give it to me free. I don't have a lot of uses for that, but yes, if I wanted to do something secure and have no one know about it, that's what I'd use.
Yeah, I mean, clearly because you use Manus, maybe you care less about that than I do.
I care less about that. Venice is also good because you can use, like, I'll test through Venice. You can test any model you want.
Yeah.
Like when a new model comes out, I want to test drive it. You can easily, I don't have to sign up for anything and test it there. And if there's some like thing that's catching data and not good, it's a new model or backdoor, I'm not exposed to it.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for that little sidebar. That was, I just felt like we talk about AI all the time, but you and I actually use it, and it's maybe helpful to one of the listeners to sort of hear how we use it. Okay, let's wrap this thing up, man. Google to invest $24 billion in AI in the US and India. It plans to invest approximately $15 billion in India over the next 5 years.
Yeah, so everyone's investing a ton of money. The reason this is interesting is the selection of India was new. I haven't seen a lot of people building data centers at scale in India, and so Google is moving into India. I think it's a great opportunity. India is maybe it's maybe still a little bit behind as far as like legal structure and market structure, but I think it's coming on quickly. So the Middle East and India is a pretty interesting space overall.
Yeah, and Google's big enough. I think anything that's not China, Russia, and North Korea is in play for an organization as big as Google. They can go in there, as you said before, with the exception of a military, they're bigger than the majority of countries in the world, right? So they can go in there and they can navigate some of the, market structure issues and things like that. For you and I couldn't, but Google can, right? So okay, soon you'll be able to shop Walmart and ChatGPT. Here's why it matters. Why does it matter, Vic?
It matters because they are going to now be able to. You can buy things right out of ChatGPT, and there's 800 million users weekly that are interested in buying stuff that Walmart has. And then furthermore, their stock jumped, I think 5% in a couple hours after they announced it.
All the news. Yeah, I mean, to me, the reason why it matters is because ChatGPT is eating meaningful share of being a discovery engine. And if it can also take actions, then it starts to really kind of eat the browser. Like it started eating away at Google search. With this, now it's eating away at Chrome entirely. And I think that's a real issue for Google, right? If ChatGPT can not just take you out of search, but take you out of Chrome, I think that's what they're doing. That's what they're headed for, right?
Yeah. And then, Walmart's competing with Amazon primarily And I don't know that Amazon's going to partner in this way with ChatGPT. So it gives them a differentiator against Amazon.
Yes. Okay. And then finally, we have this story from Substack, Import AI 431. The publication is called Import AI. I guess this is probably post 431. The title is Technological Optimism and Appropriate Fear. What do we do if AI progress keeps happening? It's written by a guy named Jack Clark. Tell me about this guy, Vic.
Yeah, so he is one of the founders of OpenAI, and then he went with a group of them who left OpenAI to found Anthropic because they felt like it was not safely developing the technology. That's the formation of Anthropic. And so he is writing this pretty long piece about all the promise of AI, but also the fact that we really don't understand how it works or what, how to control it or how to keep it aligned with us from a motivation point of view. And any normal person should be scared. He says, I'm fearful about how powerful this is, and yet I don't understand. No one in Anthropic really fully understands it. So anyway, it got attention because of Jack Clark, but also the Trump administration is pushing to have a moratorium on state regulations. And one of the outcomes of this piece is there should be someone somewhere that is keeping track of this stuff, because eventually it could be something that we need to regulate or control in some way. And the Trump administration and David Sachs didn't like that. I know they don't like it, but I think it also is kind of true.
Yeah. Thanks for ending it there. I mean, I kind of came about this because I was on X Pro, and I didn't see this. I saw David Sachs responding to this, right?
Yeah.
And kind of saying that Anthropic is engaging in regulatory capture efforts, right? And that's kind of what this is about. A sophisticated regulatory capture. I mean, you know my feelings about that guy. But I think the important thing is he is the AI czar.
Right.
For America.
Yeah. And America is, one of the two powers in the world that matters in this stuff. And I mean, I understand Anthropic is maybe behind Google and OpenAI as far as users and pace, but I do not believe that they're doing a sophisticated regulatory capture play. I think the company was formed for the express purpose of trying to bring this powerful technology into the world in a safe way. And so all the people there and their mission and just the way ethos is this, it's not trying to capture regulators. Now, whether they're right or not is unknowable for 5 or 10 years, but it seems clear to me that this technology is very powerful, and we don't understand it. And as an example, he showed the Dallas Fed's estimates of the impact of AI on GDP.
Oh yeah.
Just a comically, ludicrously bad projection. But
but is it? All it demonstrates to me is the humility to understand two things. One, this technology has the potential to be the most important technology we've ever created as humanity, right? Two, we don't know. Two, if that's true, right? Because they present three different scenarios here, right? So the first one is it might be true. And then if it's true, we don't know which way it's going to go. Right. And to me, that's all that this chart, that if you're listening, you don't see, but basically it shows a straight line sort of up and to the right, which is just like, the normal path of human progress. GDP is growing, everything's fine, blah, blah, blah. And then there's two peel-offs. One is exponentially up, and the other was an exponentially down. And it's kind of like we're either going to the moon with like the most unbelievable ascent of humanity, that like it's just going to blow all of our minds, utopia effectively, right? Or we're dead. Or we're dead.
That's right. That's right. And it's going to be very promising, and everyone's going to be very excited about all of the incredible gains, maybe forever, or until something happens and we get misaligned with AI that we don't understand, and then we're dead. And there's not a lot of steps where you could see a warning along the way, because it's going to get more and more powerful, which will be great until it's more powerful than we are and we can't control it. I don't know. I think it's too simplistic for David Sachs or the Trump administration broadly to say this is regulatory capture and discount it. I don't think that's what it is. And they might be wrong. I hope they're wrong. But to be cautious, I think is you don't understand it unless you're cautious.
Yeah. I mean, I think they, representing the nation state of the United States of America, as we talked about a whole lot at the beginning of the show, are engaged in a war of many forms with China.
Yes.
And you and I have been talking about, the many ways, week over week, the many ways in which China is actually ahead of America in AI. Not in all ways, right? Yeah. But just last week, Jensen Huang gave us a breakdown of the stack. Right. And in many ways, energy, yes. Open source, yes. Application layer, yes. Ability for their society to adopt new technology, yes. General positioning of leaders in their society, engineers versus our society, lawyers, yes. Right? Like they have a lot of advantages. They have cultural advantages. They have, energy, which is really kind of foundational layer advantages, energy advantages. They don't have to work things through a democracy. They're not a democracy, right? And so the United States government, if it wants to maintain its position vis-a-vis China, simply cannot have a position that is in any way accepting of the idea that we have to slow down. And I think we, as the general public, just need to internalize that and just take everything that they say with that grain of salt. Like understanding it's simply not an option for them. And so
that makes sense.
It doesn't mean it's
very smart, and he's aware of all this stuff.
Totally.
But that's right. So behind the scenes, they're considering all these things, but then when you come out, I don't want 50 different regulations of AI either. So I'm not in favor of every state putting regulation down, but I also don't think it's true to say that I'm not slightly worried that we're going to lose control of the AI, because we have no way to know how we're going to keep it contained. But so I think I might end up, if I was sitting in the seat, which I plan to never be, you might end up with the same reaction on X, because you can't have 50 states doing regulation. And so the best answer is to push down this guy and say, you're trying to do something for your own best interests and just kill the story. Which maybe is right.
Yeah. So I, my view is that the Anthropic leadership, and this is why I like to use Claude, has kept the reality of the situation front and center in all their communications from day one. Yeah. And that is not always going to align them with the position of the United States government. It's just not. And I think that puts them at a disadvantage right now. Because another theme we've talked about throughout this show is that the United States government is getting very, very active in the free market.
Yeah.
Right. And, whether that is through shows of support or non-support on X, all the way through to getting involved contractually, all the way to deals where if you do this, we'll do that, right? Tariff protections and things of that nature. And so taking a principled position that is not aligned with that of the United States government in this era is likely to be a disadvantage to your enterprise.
Yes. Yeah. No question about that. And I'll go further. I think they're behind.
Well, okay.
Users, brand awareness, momentum, capital raise. I mean, in venture markets, they're behind. Their technology is great, but that's not what's going to win.
Yeah.
And any time they spend thinking about safety and writing this piece, OpenAI is not doing that. I mean, they're just going full on acceleration, and Anthropic's competing with someone who's just like both feet on the gas, full steam ahead, and they're going to get outcompeted. I fear, but I'm a cheerleader for them, and that's why part of the reason I use them.
Yep,
and I think it's a better product, but they're losing. They don't have the same momentum.
Agree. Okay, man. Another great show. Thank you so much. And we'll be remote next week as well.
Okay. All right. Have a good night.
You too. Bye.